Mr. Martinez, you perhaps recall I mentioned in my opening remarks my concern that the agency does not have reliable, easy-to-read system to verify the safety of a motor vehicle. This has been the long outstanding issue. The agency is 7 months late in submitting an action plan that Congress required in the FAST Act. This was made even more urgent because of recommendations by the National Academy of Sciences, and I mentioned their study as well in my opening statement. When will Congress receive the action plan required by the FAST Act? Remember, the FAST Act, I think, was passed 3 years ago.
Thank you. That's correct. The report, I believe, was due December 17th of last year. You can imagine my disappointment in assuming this position in February and seeing that that had not been submitted. I can tell you that as we speak today, it is in final departmental review, and I hope that that will be forthcoming. But that said, we have been directed.
You hope that it will be forthcoming, Mr. Martinez? It's in final review. If it's in final review, you should be able to tell us when you expect it to be final.
And I don't have a date for when that would be made available. What I will say is that we have not waited for that study to be put forward. We are moving. We have fully accepted the National Academy of Sciences recommendation, and we are moving forward with their recommendations.
So you are now in the process of implementing the recommendations of the National Science Academy of Science?
That's correct. We have accepted those recommendations. We have started with having an initial public meeting to continue to gather input into the corrective action plan. We have contracted with the National Academy of Sciences, in fact, to continue for them to provide guidance to us, because we think that that's something that was sorely needed at the FMCSA.
Well, I do appreciate that, because it does seem to me you have the information at hand to proceed, and not waiting in a bureaucratic fashion for that endpoint is important to us. Last year, the agency withdrew a proposed safety fitness determination rule that had been developed by the prior administration. Now, this rule is what I thought all of us are always after. It cut through all of the confusing data, all of the technical stuff, to provide a bright line safety test by assigning a safe and unsafe rating. That's what the public and the industry want and expect the government's truck and bus safety regulator to produce. Are you committed to issuing a final rule? We call it the Safety Fitness Determination Rule, or SFD. And what is the timeline for that rule so that we could all understand what is safe and what is not safe?
Well, I think that would be helpful. This goes back to the old adage of bad data in gives you bad data out and results. And in fact, for an agency like ours, may often result in greater confusion, in misplaced enforcement efforts, and perhaps litigation. I think it's critical at this time to focus on making sure that we are gathering the right data for analysis, and that involves preliminarily speaking with industry representatives, safety advocates, and third parties like the National Academy of Sciences.
Do you operate on the basis of a timeline, Mr. Martinez? I expect they've been doing that all along. So unless you have a timeline, I don't know how we can expect that the public will understand what is safe and what is safe and what is not safe. I'd like to get some understanding from you what at least the timeline is.
And I can't give you a hard date for when something
Mr.
like
Martinez, I can understand that. You know, could I ask that you get to the chairman a timeline? I'm not even asking for a date.
Yes.
I'm asking for a timeline because I think this critical information going to the public is so important. Finally, let me ask you about the fatalities I think all of us on both sides have been discussing. There's been a compelling case made to mandate automatic emergency braking as a way to prevent the increase in these deaths. Now, this technology has been commercialized a long time ago and is mandated in trucks in the EU, and I understand will be in every truck by 2022. Now, that is very important that the industry is ahead of the federal government. Why can't we mandate this automatic emergency braking to indicate to the industry we understand what they're about and they should get to it even more rapidly?
Well, those are areas that, of course, especially with emergency, with the braking systems, that we are evaluating. I will say this, that some of the, as was referenced earlier, some of the great advances that are already occurring in industry, and they are incorporating new technologies across the board that are improving safety regardless of mandates. So that is an area that we would be happy to work with Congress and work with the industry to continue to study to see what would make sense.
Well, I appreciate your answer, but I also appreciate the industry is going ahead and doing it. I think the Congress ought to be very, and I think they're doing it for a reason. Nobody wants to be involved and incur the liability if one of these accidents, in fact, takes place. So I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hunter.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman.